Hello there, everyone. This is Comic Books, the new class. Check it out. We have merch. We'll talk more about that later. How are you doing, Ryan?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun. This is a very interesting, important topic that needs to be discussed amongst new readers and veterans in regards to indie comics. So I'm excited to get this thing rolling. We also have special surprises and stuff. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah, we've got something really special coming on as soon as we do our intro. I'm Crayle from Phoenix Sisters. This is Ryan at Ryan RPM 5. He's also got the show, oh gosh, and I
What's it called
quote.
again? Yeah, it's called And I Quote, Saturdays, 12 p.m. EST, hashtag always be promoting yourself. So
Hashtag
yeah,
always
it's
be
a great show
promoting.
and it's a lot of fun. So thanks for having me. I'm Ryan, by the way. Nice to meet you.
I love when you say thanks for having me, as if you didn't have the idea for this show originally.
No, I may have had an idea somewhere. I don't remember where it went.
Ryan came to me about the show, y'all. I mean,
There's your
we
behind the scenes secrets right there.
we work together, but that is the secret. Is Ryan was like, I want to talk to you about something, and I was like, oh no, and then told me what it was, and I was like, oh yes. And thanks to that, you get to enjoy this podcast. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
take it away with our opening video now.
I hate those comic books. They never get the eyes right.
Iron Man, that's kind of catchy. It's got a nice ring to it. I mean,
Spider-Man.
Superman.
Superman.
All right, hello, we are back. Are you all ready for the surprise?
Yeah, I was born ready.
You were born ready? All right, well, I
Yeah,
hope
why
our
not?
viewers are ready.
I know.
Surprise! George Buehler from the Fanatic Forum, also on the Serial Box Network, is joining us tonight to talk about indie comics.
What's going on, everybody? How y'all
Good
doing?
to see you, George. It's good to see you. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for agreeing to be our first guest on this somewhat newish type show here, and we're happy to have you. Just do us a favor. Don't cross any more streams and don't break our internet anymore.
I can't promise anything. The Proton pack is charging right now, so but come on, yeah. But yeah, thank you all very much for having me. Lovely to be here. I've been excited about being on this show because I've said before, it's like, with me being a veteran reader of 40 plus years, unless it's brand new, I've pretty much read it. But I really like living vicariously through new readers, getting to experience, big tentpole issues or big storylines that have been translated in movies or whatever else, and just kind of get to experience what through you all for the first time. And what you all think, and what was your reaction, that sort of stuff. So this is fun.
Excellent. I couldn't have said it any better myself. So,
Crayle,
what's up first?
I was not wanting to interrupt Ryan, and then I feel like Ryan was kind of pausing, not wanting to interrupt me.
I didn't want to interrupt George. He's our guest. We got to treat him with respect. Be our guest. Be our guest. Sorry, that's a song from another movie.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T. That's where
Thank you.
went, yeah.
It's a completely different song that's totally irrelevant to this discussion. But Crayle, I'm just curious. What is our topic tonight, and who's going to kick us off?
Our topic tonight is indie comics. So we're talking about independently published comics, maybe a little harder to find. So reminder for all of us, make sure you let people know if they have to go to a special website or can't find this in a store. Let's make sure we tell our readers where to find this stuff. And if you have a question or need us to type it in, light up the comment section. Just be like, where do I get this? All right. So Ryan is going to start us off, and we're going to talk about...
That's a great question. What are we talking about? Oh, yes, this one. Yeah. So Johnny, what's my line? Oh, it's that one. Great. So the first one I want to mention to you real quick, this is called Nightwolf. Now, this is the image from the Volume 1 trade paperback that includes the first 4 issues of this series, known as Nightwolf, which is put together by the great team over there known as Lone Wolf Comics. Visit them online at lonewolfcomics.com for more information about Nightwolf and some of the other things that they are doing. This is written by Rob Multeri, who was recently on an episode of And I Quote, Saturdays, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, hosted by yours truly. Hashtag always be promoting. Keep that in mind, George. So Nightwolf tells the story of a young high school student who finds out that he comes from an ancient line of werewolves, a very special line of werewolves. This particular line of werewolves has certain special abilities that some of the other lines of werewolves don't necessarily have. And he finds out that he is being caught up in a war between werewolves, vampires, monsters, witches, sages, all kinds of crazy, monstrous, wonderful, maybe not so wonderful creatures, depending on whose side you're on. I'm just saying. And this is what in the adventure and the craziness ensues. So this has action, it has romance, it has suspense, it has surprises galore, and it is called Night Wolf. Now this is volume 1. The paperback is on your right. The hardcover version of the volume 1 is on your left with the wolf claws and the wolf kind of peeking in through there, the cover there. And this is another image that came with the comic here on the far right hand side of your screen, respectively. So check it out. Night Wolf Volume 1, I like it a lot. It's a good start with 4 issues, and also some other characters appear in this series that may or may not have their own spin-offs, yo. So treat yourself. If you're looking for vampires and werewolves done right, we're not looking at sparkly vampires from Twilight. We're not looking at romance stuff that went down in the Vampire Diaries or Legacies, or what was the other one that came out? The Originals and all that jazz.
I just
Thank
started
you.
watching Vampire Diaries last
Oh,
month.
Really, I'm sorry, Crayle, no offense, but certain seasons are better than others in regards to TVD as well as the originals with Klaus, great villain, by the way. No, I'm not trying to give away any spoilers.
We'll
But
have
again,
to talk
Night
about
Wolf-
this next time we're in the green room.
Well, yeah, this is a backstage problem. This isn't a front of the camera problem. The thing is that if you're looking for adventure, suspense, sci-fi, mystical type stuff with vampires and werewolves, high school done right, check out Night Wolf Volume 1. It is available online at lonewolfcomics.com. Check out the shop. Rob Multeri and his great creative team over there have so many wonderful plans for this series moving forward, including spin-offs, yo. So look it up.
Ryan,
And
I
George,
actually
I
have a
see that
question
smile
for
on
you
your
about
face.
this.
Something tells me that you're going to go to this website as soon as this broadcast is concluded.
It does look pretty cool. And of course, I mean, I love Night Wolf in Mortal Kombat 3. So, there you go. So,
Ryan, I actually have a question. I've been considering buying Snowpaw ever since you started introducing me to Rob Multari's work. Should I read Night Wolf first and then Snowpaw?
Well, Snowpaw takes place long before any of the events in Night Wolf, so you're not going to get lost. You don't have to read one to understand what's going on in the other, George, just so we're clear. So if you want to read Snowpaw, you're more than welcome to. But then if you want to read Night Wolf, now you got me thinking of Mortal Kombat, George. Stop it. If you want to read Night Wolf, you're more than welcome to. And the other thing is, Snowpaw does have her own series. She does have her own spinoff, and a brand new Kickstarter by Rob Multeri and Lone Wolf Comics is going to start on Wednesday night, September the 28th. So for Snowpaw's future issues. So look for that Kickstarter, the pre-launch page. If you want to get notified when the Kickstarter goes live, go to lonewolfcomics.com, and there'll be a page on there that gives you all the information and all the links to click on. So treat yourself.
All right, well, I'm going to put Ryan's next selection up here, and then while he's talking, I will be typing in the comments some of that stuff so that you can just click, read, whatever, to talk about going to repeat what the website is for me again, Ryan, and our listeners.
My gosh, George, we're going to be here all night, man. So it's lonewolfcomics.com, www.lonewolfcomics.com. Does that make enough sense for you? I hope it does. Because it's pretty simple. Wolfpack for life, George. Wolfpack for life. Can you dig it? Yeah. So anyway.
I can dig
it. See, this is why George and I are BFFs. Anywho, the next one I want to mention here in regards to indie comics. And first and second of all, thank you so much for joining us. If this is your first time here, make sure you like and share this video with all 200 of your closest friends. You're going to like the way you look if they're watching or listening to Comic Books, The New Class. We guarantee it. This one on the screen here, let's talk about this for a minute, George. This is called Memoirs of an Angel. This is from writer Brian Rodman. You got to go to www.brianrodman. That's BrianRodman.com, BrianRodman.com. He put this series together in the Memoirs of an Angel. Oh boy. Let me tell you this. This is NSFC and NSFW. This is not safe for the kiddies. This is not safe for work because it is brutally violent, very bloody. Heads are getting cut off. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. No, that didn't happen.
That's a really cool looking sword that this large dude in the back's holding. So that's kind of,
It's great, isn't it? So Memoirs of an Angel, brief synopsis, because a lot goes on in this story. Let me just be perfectly clear. So this contains I want to say it's the first 4 issues as well of Memoirs of an Angel. Brian Rodman, if you're watching this and I'm making a mistake, let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chitty chatter later, because I don't want to mess this up. So it's the first 4 issues. Now, Memoirs of an Angel, this is a battle between heaven, earth, and south. And there are angels, there are demons, and this child here who's in the center, who's got his head down, a little bit there. Mm-hmm. This kid is the key to this whole thing because he is possessed by a very powerful demon. And the man who's holding the sword, I believe what's his name, Brian? What is it? Darn it. Can't think of it. But he is kind of the demon hunter. He's the one who's supposed to take care of the bad demons, kill them all, and send them back to H-Town and kind of help this kid out. And the gentleman on your left, the one who looks like Gandalf had a few horns there and a gray suit, he's he's also very knowledgeable about this whole thing, and it's brutal, it's violent, it makes you question things about faith, and is there really something up north? Maybe is there something down there in H-Town? And once again, something I do want to emphasize here, this is not telling you to believe in one thing or the other. This is just presenting a story that happens to be set in certain parts of belief systems and all that, but it's not trying to beat you over the head with its message, because there is no message here. It is just telling you a story that is brutally violent. It's a battle between good and evil. It's a battle between angels and demons. So if that fits your fancy, then look up brianrodman.com, Memoirs of an Angel. This has a lot of great action. Very good themes are explored. Very, very deep themes are explored, and the action is kind of violent. So once again, it is for mature readers and mature audiences only. So please keep your 5-year-olds away from this thing, because they are not qualified to read it. But if you want to know more, check out brianrodman.com. Crayle, you better write this gosh darn thing down, because I am not going to repeat myself again.
I have everything written down ahead of time for this show. Thank you very much. I have a pen and everything.
Thank you. So Crayle and George are doing their homework. I'm proud of you both. So check out these websites. You're going to like the way you look, and it's good stuff. If you're into that sort of stories, because some people are not, and that's fine. But it's Memoirs of an Angel. Check it out, because Brian Rodman has a lot of big plans for this movie. He has plans for a whole multiverse of stuff centering on characters that are featured in this story known as Memoirs of an Angel. So look it up. You may like it.
All right.
Nice.
We're going to talk about Ryan's next selection now. I know I'm going to let Ryan talk again. What am I thinking?
I've been here for 2 minutes, and George is probably thinking, what am I even doing here? Gosh, what's going on?
I'm enjoying this.
You should be enjoying this. Your ratings are going to go sky high because you're on our show, and more people are going to transfer themselves over to Fanatic Forum on Friday nights. 7 p.m. Eastern Time? Yeah, that's right. Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Fanatic Forum. Anyway, so the next one, before I get too far off the reservation, even though I already gone way off. So this is called Scarlet Huntress. This is by Sean and Stephanie Forney. Go to www.seanforney. That's SeanForney, SeanForney.com. Scarlet Huntress. I'll tell you what, I just read this not too long ago. Just giving you a heads up, Sean. I know you're watching. Scarlet Huntress is about a descendant of Little Red Riding Hood. But here's the kicker. She hunts werewolves because werewolves killed this descendant's mother. So she wants payback, and she finds out that she comes from an ancient line of hunters. And at first she's shocked by it. She doesn't really believe in it because her grandmother is telling her this. And she's like, Grams, you're crazy. We're not from an ancient line of hunters. What are you talking about? Why would my mom name our bar what is it called? The Silver Bullet. Why would she name it that? I don't know. So she finds out why the bar was named after Silver Bullet. She finds out that there's the what is it called here? The cloak and the hood now, because her grandmother gives it to her. She gives her the swords. So her grandmother becomes the Yoda to her Luke Skywalker. So she finds out about her past. She finds out that her mother was murdered by werewolves. And guess what she wants more than anything else in this world right now? She wants revenge on the ones that killed her mother. So Scarlet is the name of the character, just so we're clear. This is Scarlet right here on the cover. Yep. Scarlet is just trying to live a life, and when she finds out her secrets of the past, she is ticked off. She wants payback like yesteryear, and her grandmother takes her under her wing and teaches her the ways of being a huntress, teaches her the ways of how to blend in, make sure you know how to sense stuff. She teaches her how to meditate so she knows how to hone in on her senses that will allow her to find werewolves that are hiding out in, secret lairs and stuff like that, lurking in the shadows, So if you're looking for some interesting spins on classic tales, George, something like Little Red Riding Hood, about werewolves, why we hunt them, a little bit of supernatural in there, with a Sam and Dean Winchester finding out they come from an ancient line of hunters kind of thing, even though Supernatural went 10 years too long because it should have ended at season 5. You dig it? The creator had a plan for that series, gosh darn it. But anyway, they milked the cash cow, George. They couldn't help but milk the cash cow. But Scarlet Huntress,
mad, Ryan.
I have a lot of hot takes, George. I have a lot of hot takes, but I'll tell you one thing. If you're looking for something to get you into the holiday, I don't count Halloween as a holiday. It's just a crazy night on the town. But if you're looking for something to get you in the mood for Halloween, Scarlet Huntress is the perfect thing for you to check out, George, Crayle. If you're into action-packed stuff, female superheroines taking charge of their destiny and getting revenge, then you're going to want to check this. See, I'm glad you didn't see me make that expression on camera, because otherwise the audience would have been freaked
Do it
out.
again. Just do it
No,
again.
I'm not doing it again. George, don't make me do this. So
Yeah,
check out
do it.
SeanForney.com. Sean and Stephanie Forney have done a great job with this series. It is 5 issues in total. This is issue number 1 that we saw on our screen just a moment ago. So check it out. Do you sense a theme here? For those of you who are watching or listening to this right now, there's a lot of action sequences in these comics. You know what I'm saying?
That's really good cover art for Scarlet Huntress there. So that looks cool.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, and I like swords, George. I like swords a lot. So if anyone's carrying a large sword and they beat the living heck out of somebody with it and they just lay the smack down, I'm kind of a fan of that sort of stuff. You know what I mean?
Have you ever fenced before?
It's not entirely true. I have done a little bit. Not fencing, but I have done it with lightsabers, with Saber Legion.
No, I mean like
I've done it with those guys.
A
I
metal.
fenced saber in college.
Okay, well, a metal foil, George? No, I never have.
You
did
did
saber
you did
college,
foil.
Nice. Yeah.
Crayle knows too much.
I literally what the difference between, because I took a class where we started out where we learned the basics in all 3 blades, and I was like, you mean the other 2 blades you're not allowed to hit people in the head?
No.
Obviously I'm going saber.
Gee willikers. Yeah. But yeah, Sean and Stephanie Forney, they've done a good job with Scarlet Huntress, so great job, guys.
Awesome.
Great job. You're shaming Ryan for not having fenced. You gave
Yeah,
George
thanks,
and I the
George.
excuse.
I'm not shaming. I was just curious if you had or not.
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
I haven't. But thanks for asking, though. Yeah. Crazy folks. See, this is why I'm never going to have George on one of my shows ever again. So here's the next situation I want to mention this to you. And once again, we're talking about indie comics here on this episode of Comic Books: The New Class. We hope you're enjoying this thus far, even though I've gone on a few random tangents outside of left field. But the next one I want to bring to your attention, indie comics, George. Here's one for you. It's called Tragedy. This is by Philip Russert and his great creative team over there at B Legendary Illustrations. Philip Russert is a passionate, driven, determined comic book writer, indie comic book writer if I ever saw one. This man has been on my show known as, and I quote, I have read this Tragedy, issue number 1, which we have here on your screen right now, just to get for those who may be listening. We're looking at an image of Tragedy number 1. This is about a young lady who is a very highly skilled assassin, and she wears this outfit when she goes out, taking care of targets. But here's the thing. She works for a crime family that's actually her somewhat adopted family, and she doesn't want to really do it anymore. She's tired of killing. She just wants to leave this part of her life behind and move on and do something else. But her family keeps bringing her back and having her do this and do these things and take care of things that will ensure that their criminal organization stays afloat, because it's family, it's about the family. So she wants to get away from it, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to get away from your own family or adopted family, whatever the case may be. Sorry, I don't have all the details in front of me, Philip Russert. I apologize. But this is really good. This is someone dealing with, some dark things, and she wants redemption. She wants to do something else rather than just killing people, even though she's very good at it. But she wants to stop, and it's very hard for her to stop because her family keeps pulling her back in. They keep guilt tripping her into doing things. So it's difficult. It really is. So this young lady is struggling, and her name on the streets is Tragedy, since she's so good at killing people. It's a tragedy. She's wearing the mask, so it kind of goes with the tragedy, like smiley face, not smiley face. Maybe a bit of a V for Vendetta thing going on, George. So yeah, it's difficult. It's not easy working for a criminal family, But Tragedy is good stuff. If you want to know more information, follow Philip Russert. Go to his website. I think it's BLegendaryIllustrations.com. Just look him up on Facebook, Philip Russert. And he's on my friends list, Crayle, so you can just go ahead and find it there. George, that goes double for you, too. If you want to find him, he's on my friends list. Just look on Facebook.
1 L or 2 in Philip?
That's a great question. I think it's I think it's 2, but I may be wrong. I'm so bad at spelling names, George. I'm sorry. Crayle, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Do me a favor. Just look it up. Just look it up, okay? Just do it.
It's called Tragedy. We showed you the cover art, so
yeah. And I can send you links in the back channel. I can send you, or not back channel. That's Clubhouse terminology. I can send you links in Messenger or whatever, George. Crayle, that goes double for you. So whatevs. But anyway, it's called Tragedy. Look it up at B Legendary Illustrations. Look at Philip Russert and his team over there. He does a great job because he's passionate about building other people up and not tearing each other down and promoting other indie writers and artists out there. He is such a big proponent of that. And I respect the heck out of him for that, Crayle, with all due respect. So look it up. It's action-packed, and it's emotional. It's emotional. because she's dealing with stuff and she wants redemption. That is a hard thing to find these days. Sometimes it's hard to find redemption, guys. But
Sure.
look it up. You may like it. It's action packed. It's got a little bit of comedy in there, but it's really good. So, in the words of Parks and Rec, treat yourself.
Treat yourself.
Right. On that note, instead of, if you want to treat yourself and some like readers at the Johnson County Public Library near where I live, I actually, before I tell you my picks, I'm going to talk to you about a personal project I have going on. I and my stepmom initially just bought, my other Phoenix sister Kelly's books to donate to the Johnson County Public Library near me. And I was like, you know what? I know so many talented independent authors who libraries probably don't know about them yet. We want to make sure that like people can access independently written and published novels at their local libraries too. And so once a couple of libraries start getting them in, other libraries start requesting them, other libraries get them in their Libby accounts where libraries can share. So I put a post out on Facebook just among my personal friends. Hey, does anybody want to donate a book? Just send it to my house. I'll take them all down in one trip. And within 2 days, Sarah Frades, who wrote Rise of Midnight and Rise of Daybreak. I had to look at the covers to remember which one went first, Daybreak or Midnight. Rise of Midnight is the book one. Had these to my door. They arrived today. So if you want to participate in that, I won't take up too much more time of the show. But if you message us on Facebook or email us comicbooksnewclass@gmail.com, we will make sure that you have information on how to donate a book to the library near me. If shipping a book to my house sounds like too much work, then we'll figure out a way for you to just like contribute in another way. Like we'll work it out. You just go ahead and message us if you want to start with one library and hopefully get some independent books, ebook versions in like national library sharing services like Libby. Let's see who's popping up in the comments while we're at it. Oh,
Charlie's
it's my friend Charlie. He says tuning in a little later than expected. Hey, Charlie, I'm honored that you came at all. Charlie has had a long day. He woke up at 3 a.m. Okay. He woke up at 3 a.m. I told him it was okay if he just took a nap, missed the show entirely. But he's here because he cares about comics and podcasting. He has his own podcast. Charlie, if you put your podcast information in the comments, I'll pop it up on the screen a little bit later. But for now, I'm going to jump right into my independent comic picks for the month. The first one is by my very good friend, Paul Sager. Stuart Sager. Why did I say Paul? I know
who's Paul?
Really
Who's Paul? It's Stuart Sager. Get it right.
I know a Paul Sagert, but this is Paul. Yeah.
What's his name?
I'm so sorry.
What's his name? It's called Shiver in the Dark, and it's by Stuart Sager. If you go to stuartsager.com, that's STUARTSAYGER.com. I've had him on my show too, Crayle, on And I Quote, Saturdays, 12 p.m. EST. Very nice man. Very smart.
On that one.
Very driven. Yeah, Shiver in the Dark. What exactly is Shiver in the Dark about, Crayle?
Okay, so Shiver in the Dark starts out with this like normal, or maybe not even normal. She's this exceptionally shallow college student, okay? She's kind of a jerk. She's not evil. She's not a super villain. She's just kind of a jerk. And she gets obsessed with this book in this bookstore that is old. It's so faded you can't read it, and it smells bad. And she doesn't even know why she wants it, but she wants it, okay? And there's no price. It's not in the system. And the bookstore owner is like, I can't sell this to you because it doesn't have a barcode. It's not in the system. Yeah. So she goes back later and steals it and suddenly is involved in a nightmare, shall we say. Okay. Well, it's not so much that she's involved in a nightmare as with a nightmare. I don't want to give away too much of it, okay? But basically, she steals a smelly book and stuff gets scary from there. Okay. All right? Like, if you're not hooked by that shallow girl steals smelly book involved with nightmare, then I guess I could tell you more, but I don't want to spoil anything because I was opening it up like, I have no idea where this is going. Oh, I still have no idea where this is going, but it is really interesting. I have the first 3 issues. I can't wait to dig more into it. George, you're nodding. Have you read Shiver in the Dark?
No, I have not. I'm familiar with Stewart's work, though. But yeah, that looked cool. It actually sounds like a good premise because I love like hapless morons getting cursed tomes or whatever else, and basically their life goes downhill, and there's chaos and bloodshed and all that sort of thing. So good horror elements there. So yeah, sounds cool.
It does have good horror elements. Like the first 3 issues that I've read so far, there's nothing gory or like disgusting in it. It is not for kids. Like
Yeah.
it's like a little scary, a little sexually explicit, like
Mhm.
in the sense that, sex exists in that universe sort of thing,
Sure, yeah.
So not for children. I mean, I didn't hit anything in the first 3 volumes that I would be super uncomfortable with, like an older teenager reading, I guess.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I love Stewart. Goes to a lot of the same conventions that I do. I'm at a lot of conventions with my booth, Pokeballs by Crayle. If you look me up on Facebook or Instagram, you can see my work there. And he really coached me through, like, aside from the fact that his work is amazing, he's a great guy. He really coached me through, like, you should do what you love. Crayle, you're a workaholic. If you're a workaholic like me, like you, people like us, we need to do a job that we
Yeah.
love doing because we're always working anyway. Like
Mhm.
he really encouraged me to like branch out into my creative pursuits. Like he's a good friend, but even before we were like personal friends, he was so encouraging. He's so talented. StewartSager.com. I'll drop mine in the comments like when I'm done talking so I don't distract myself and forget what I'm doing. And then my second one is by another friend, but he became a friend after I read his stuff. So it's not super nepotistic for me to bring it up. This is the Water Wars Chronicles, Lost at Sea. My friend Holden, also known as Timothy B. Fling. I had to pause for a second because I got Stewart's name wrong. And I'm like, I cannot get 2 of my personal friends' names wrong in one episode. So Timothy B. Fling and others, he works with a really great creative team on this stuff. Writes a like futuristic like universe. Imagine like if there was a mixture between those like cyberpunk futuristic post-apocalyptic or novels and a post-apocalyptic novel. It's like that. It's got elements of both, and the artwork in these is so beautiful. Like I could flip to any random page, find a panel that I'm like, I would hang that on my wall as a poster. Like
Yeah.
it's just,
If that covers any indication, yeah, that's beautiful.
oh yeah, no, like everything in it is gorgeous. For back of the cereal box, the back issue breakfast club segment, if you go to that playlist on YouTube or Facebook, back issue breakfast club for part of back of the cereal box, I did an in-depth review of this one where I show a lot of the work, but I'm going to talk about it again because I love it so much and it's independent. They Kickstarter like each new issue. So the universe of the Water Wars, there has been like a series of global crises and war that like has to do with water, obviously, and the oceans and patrolling the oceans. Okay. And I suggest that if you aren't sure if you want to commit or not, Lost at Sea is 3 short stories taking place in this universe. The first one is about a lonely sea captain, a cyborg, and a mystery woman. The second one is a slice of life story about a guy who doesn't feel in with the machines, but doesn't feel in with the regular humanity anymore. Gets back in touch with his human side by helping a lost little girl. And it's a little more complicated than that, but it's a slice of life story that just shows you like how things are going in this universe. And then the third story is actually just a beautifully illustrated timeline that after you've seen those 2 little slices of life in this universe, now it catches you up to the context, and this like beautiful like one almost painting style full page panel tells you a historical event in the Water Wars Chronicles universe. So if you're not sure if you want to commit and go ahead and buy volume 1, buy Lost at Sea. You won't, if you were just like, well, I enjoyed those 3 stories, but I'm not going to commit. You should commit. You should. But this is a nice alternate starting place if you're not sure if this genre is for you. Because some people are still new to the whole post-apocalyptic genre. It's one of my favorites. But some people are new to it. I meet people every year who are like, yeah, like I've watched some of that stuff on TV and stuff, but I've never read it. And I don't know how you 2 feel, but I feel like reading post-apocalyptic materials and looking at them in comic books has a very different feel and makes you think differently than watching it on TV and movies. What do you 2 think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's definitely some movies, that deal with post-apocalyptic stuff. They're just downright depressing. I mean, they're great movies. Like The Road is a great example. Great movie, but very dark and depressing, and doesn't have a happy ending. Whereas, like with comic books, they tend to sometimes, you can have some more serious stuff, but it still feels there's at least a little bit of element of fun to it, or something that's a little bit lighter.
Yeah. Those are my 2 suggestions. So before
Nice.
we basically turn the whole show over to our friend George here.
Yeah, he's going to take over the whole 9 realms. I mean, geez.
Oh, yeah.
Who needs Thor when you got George Buehler of clobbering comics?
The whole 9 realms.
See what I did there?
I want to watch Lord of the Rings. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Clobbering comics. There we go. I just want to point out that you can get merch like this and lots of other cool merch from the Phoenix Sisters Redbubble. I am the merch manager for several podcasts. Yay, me.
Yeah, is there anything you don't do? That's the question. You do a million things a day.
My husband jokes that the only 2 jobs I've never had are coal miner and explosives technician.
Oh, that sounds about right.
But here are some other examples. We also have our unofficial slogan of the show, correct me if I'm wrong, which, by the way, if you're watching and you hear us say something, Ryan and I, us newbies, or George, if you hear us say something wrong, let us know, because that is how we grow and learn, especially in our geekery. So you can get that on products. And then also you can put a cup down on mine and Ryan's faces. Just be like, hush, I mute you with my glass of water.
There you go.
So if you look up Phoenix Sisters in Redbubble links look really weird. I'm not going to bother putting it on the screen this time, but the shop is called Phoenix Sisters. It has the PSC logo on the Phoenix, and that goes to supporting our show. I don't know how many of you remember, but I had an awful cough for months when we first launched this show, and my illness actually delayed the launch of the whole show. So if you want me to have one of those like fancy little microphones with the like quick mute button, so you don't have to hear me hack into the microphone, go buy some merch. Okay. It helps us give you better production quality. All right. And I think our merch is pretty cute. So go get some comic books, the new class merch.
Yeah, you're going to be styling and profiling, George, if you get yourself one of them shirts or something.
Good Lord.
All right.
Gee whiz.
Are you ready, George? Are you ready, George?
Yes, sorry, I froze up there for a moment. All
Oh,
right.
that's okay. I was just using it as an excuse to use my funny voices. I do want to let our viewers know Ryan has to pop out a little early tonight. We will miss him so
Yeah.
much.
But don't worry,
So-
I'm not leaving just yet, George. I'm not leaving just yet, but
Good. All right.
yeah, enjoy
Well, I'll
yourself.
start-
What I was saying, George, before you froze up on us for the 30th time, is that you should treat yourself to some comic books, the new class merch, like Crayle was saying. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yes.
George, what exactly are you going to be discussing when it comes to indie comics? What do you got for us?
Well, first off, of course, you've plugged it before, but yeah, aside from doing podcasting, my day job is I work at Clobbering Comics here in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. So stop on by, and we have a lot of backstock, and I've personally curated it myself. So everything's in order and all that good stuff. So
if you show up and you hate the selection, yell at George.
yeah, I mean, we got so much stuff upstairs, and then downstairs we still have like 6 pallets of long boxes of stuff to go through of other collections of things we bought. So there's a lot of bulk and stuff in there, but we found some gems from time to time. So yeah,
I amend my previous statement then. You have to look at everything before you can yell at George. If you look at everything and then you're still mad at the selection, I guess
there's
go
a
yell
lot,
at George.
a lot down there. It's crazy.
All right. Well, which book do you want me to click on first?
Right? Let's see here. Let's actually, if you want, I can click on it myself. I think
You can. Yeah. He's really going to take over the show. Look,
I was
Mom,
going to say,
no,
George, you do realize, George, that absolute power corrupts absolutely. But what's the first title up for bids on The Price is Right? I mean, on Indie Comics of Comic Books, the new class. What exactly are we looking at here?
Well, the interesting thing is that most of my selections coming from Image Comics here. So I wish I was friends with these people, but unfortunately I'm not. I'm just a fan. But this one here is the Five Ghosts, The Haunting of Fabian Gray. If you're a big fan of like pulp, old actiony kind of stuff, and I know you are, Ryan. This is right up your alley. Frank Barbary Jr. is the writer on it. Chris Mooneyham is a great artist, very stylistic, very pulpy kind of thing. But basically, Fabian's kind of an Indiana Jones type of dude here, and on a certain adventure, he comes across looking for this crystal known as the Dreaming. And apparently, the concept of the Dreaming is that all creativity flows in and out of the dreaming. Whenever we make something new, or an artist makes something new, we borrow from the dreaming, but we also give back at the same time. Well, during this expedition, the crystal exploded and some bits got embedded in Fabian's chest. And so now, at certain times, he is overtaken by the spirits of 5 classic tropes of genre fiction. So we have the vampire, the samurai, the mage or the wizard, the rogue, kind of the Robin Hood sort of character, and then lastly the detective. So at times these kind of like a very much Moon Knight. It's kind of like a multiple personality sort of thing, or sometimes he can use those abilities, but other times like especially the vampire, the bloodlust takes him over. So it only lasted a couple of volumes. Unfortunately, it was cut off a little short, but a very cool series. I've always enjoyed this one. So I highly recommend checking this out. All these trades are still available, so it should be easy to find. All right, next one here. I'm giving Mark Millar a lot of love here today, but this was one of my favorites of his. Not too terribly old, and apparently it's part of his Netflix deal, so we might be seeing this as a movie soon. But Starlight is very much like a Flash Gordon sort of thing here. Gordon Parlov's art is just very Alex Ross inspired, very majestic, very classic looking here. But the storyline is basically this character was kind of like, again, kind of like a Flash Gordon sort of guy. He was an Air Force dude or a pilot of some sort, gets transported to an alien world, saves them from some tyrannical ruler, and then comes back home, has a wife, has kids, has a whole life sort of thing like that. But no one really kind of like, he got some recognition for when he came back, but no one really kind of buys his whole story of like, I was on an alien world and went on adventures and saved the whole galaxy sort of thing like that. Until, much later, guys in his, probably his, twilight years, his wife passes away, his children are sort of estranged from him, and then a ship returns from a familiar place, and well, we need his help one more time. So he basically goes back to the alien world to right some wrongs, kind of a little bit of sins of the past, so to speak, but a very fun adventure and a nice kind of gimmick of basically, this isn't the young dashing sort of thing. This is the old guy much later sort of thing like that. So, but this was a mini series, so it's collected in trade. Highly, highly recommend checking this out, especially for the adventure types here.
Yeah, this sounds really interesting.
Yeah. There's a couple of heartbreaking scenes in Starlight too. So, yeah, it pulls on the emotional strings as well. So, another Mark Millar here. This is another Image book, and of course, the Mark Millar stuff I think is all available through his MillarWorld.com website. So, anything is his, like it's also his. This is a book here, which the unfortunate thing with Mark Millar's stuff is that he sometimes would make media deals. So he would write a book, make a media deal, and if that media deal hasn't been made into a show or movie or whatever else, he can't do a sequel. So this was one of my favorites of his that I'm waiting for the movie, Netflix, and I'm also waiting for the sequel that was actually planned, and I saw the cover for the first issue. This is Nemesis. Of course, Mark Millar, Steve McNiven does the artwork for this, so it's good there. This is, if you were familiar with the Michael Douglas film The Game, where he's a wealthy guy plays this very dangerous real world sort of traps and sort of thing game, and then of course it all ends up being a big facade. It's sort of like that. It's also sort of evil Batman, but you've got this character here who is basically world's greatest criminal, dressed up in an all-white suit there, brandishing weapons, that sort of thing like that. There has been a detective who has been hot on his trail for the word go, but always eluding him. Can't, nothing, absolutely nothing. He just, tries and tries, can't catch the guy. And so this miniseries is basically this detective getting very close, but starting to kind of unravel the greater conspiracy behind Nemesis. So lots of action here, but a great sort of cat and mouse sort of thing like that. But even though you shouldn't be cheering for him, you kind of end up doing it. So.
Well, we'll have to have Ryan read one and be the judge of that, because Ryan really struggles to cheer for the bad guy and stuff. But there are a few works that have made him do it. If you check out our past episodes, you'll find out at least one thing where Ryan's like, I had to cheer for the bad guy.
Yeah. Sometimes
it happens.
Once in a blue moon, it'll happen, but who knows?
I mean, have you not seen Goodfellas?
I haven't seen it yet. I hear it's one of the greatest of all time. I just never seen it. I know. George is probably thinking, boy, am I still friends with this knucklehead? Why am I even here? Don't worry, man. I'll watch it one of these days.
Don't worry. I know you're playing catch up, but yeah, I mean, when you're going to mob movies, especially getting the Scorsese stuff, I mean, come on, that's the standard.
Well, George, as far back as I can remember, I've always wanted to be a gangster. Anyway, that's the opening line of the movie right there, Crayle. I've never seen the movie before, but yet I know what the opening line was. So great.
It's iconic. In my house, like literally, my dad will be lost in thought for a minute. I'll be like, hey, dad, what you doing? And he'll forget what he was thinking about. So instead of being able to answer me, he'll just be like, all my life, I always wanted to be a gangster. Or as far as back as I could remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. Yeah, exactly. It's like slightly different every time he says it. But
yeah.
And it's even been
parodied. I love that movie. You should watch it, Ryan.
Remember the Animaniacs cartoon Goodfellas?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forgot all about that.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a good fella.
Boy, that line's been dropped a couple times. Unfortunately, Ray Liotta is no longer with us, so R.I.P. to Ray Liotta.
And that's crazy. How is Joe Pesci still alive, but Ray Liotta is?
I don't get it either.
All right, back to the comics here. This is a fun one here. I think this ran 3 volumes here, but if you like your noirish, pulpy spy kind of stuff, look no further than Villains.
Ooh, you had me at Brubaker.
Brubaker and Epting, my dear, the team behind the Winter Soldier. Yes. This is the story of Miss Velvet Templeton, who is a British, she used to be a British, secret agent, sort of thing like that. This is during the height of the Cold War, so it takes place mostly in the late 70s. We'll have some flashbacks back to the 60s. She is currently basically the, director's secretary. So, she's getting coffee, doing, taking notes during meetings, that sort of thing like that. A fellow agent is murdered. And for whatever reason, the people decided to pin it on her, thinking like, no one's going to buy this. It'll distract everybody, yada, yada, yada. Well, when basically you've got the law enforcement and dupless agents now going after her, they suddenly realize that, Miss Templeton isn't exactly what they thought she is. She's not just the secretary getting coffee. This is essentially Black Widow retired and then decided to become a secretary. So
William Kelly isn't here.
Yeah, like this is like of course I love the silver streak of hair. They're showing your age a little bit, but if they would turn this into a series, I mean, it's or a movie or something like that. I mean, a British actress over the age of 40 would kill for this role.
Yeah,
because it's a great role. It's purposefully like she's an older woman, but she's still capable of doing all this stuff. I mean, she's
maybe Kate Beckinsale.
That's kind of
I mean, she's not British, but
no, but it kind of gives me a little bit of a Kate Beckinsale vibe on this cover, just a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so this is awesome stuff here. But yeah, this ran 3 volumes in the trades.
That's it. It's only 3 volumes, so it's a trilogy.
Yeah, it does have a beginning, middle, and end. So this does.
Nice.
It was a complete story. They didn't cancel it before it ended, anything like that. But yeah it's a good one.
Well,
So-
you had me at
Isn't that
Brubaker and
such a-
Epstein, and I have read Winter Soldier, George. So you have me. You have me. I'm down to read it.
Isn't that such a double-edged sword sometimes where you're like, I'm glad that it ended on its own terms, but like it ended. Like
It ended. Yeah.
there
Well, maybe
wasn't
Netflix
enough.
will wise up and adapt it into a series like George wants. What George wants, George should get.
Exactly. Like
Well, I'm asking nicely, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you're pulling a Jack Nicholson. You have to ask me nicely.
yeah, yeah, Crayle, your point exactly. I felt the same way with Invincible. That it was a tremendous series. It had an end. It was a great ending, but it's like, I'm sorry, it's over. So. But there are sometimes, though, too, that series do wear out their welcome. You kind of wish some would end, and they're still going. But what are you going to do? All right.
all right. And if you're only listening to the audio, I did pop up some comments from our friend Charlie. He noticed that it was the Winter Soldier dudes and then pointed out, oh, wait, you beat me to it. So I don't know. Maybe we should have Charlie on the show sometimes. He seems like he's pretty knowledgeable. All right,
Okay.
George, I'm sorry. I'll take my hands back off the wheel now.
No, you're good. You're good. No worries. All right.
I'm not actually sorry, y'all. We've been joking since all the way back in the green room before the show about how George was going to drive. He's going to take over and break our internet.
Yeah, he's driving the RV. That's an RV. What is it at Winnebago? Winnebago. Lone Star. Anyway, go ahead, George.
Wow. We went from Christmas Vacation to Spaceballs in only one move. Not bad.
It's great, isn't it? This is why I'm here.
This is exactly why Ryan's here. I was about to say
I'm just here for nothing but random movie references that only some certain people know about, and then I just take the train off the rails. Because where we're going, George, we don't need roads.
Oh my God.
this is why we had you on our 80s episode for Cosplay Cafe. Y'all, every other Friday at 9 p.m. there's
That's a
Cosplay
great
Cafe.
show.
So if you're already tuned into the Cereal Box Network on Fridays for George's show, take an hour break, go eat some dinner, and then every other Friday, come back and check out Cosplay Cafe.
It's a great
That's
show,
right.
isn't it?
And so you guys mostly have fun, but sometimes y'all get topical, y'all get serious, talk about some things here. So there you are. Nice.
David chimes in. He says, "I am my own best friend." George, did you notice that?
That's a lie. David is not a man dog. He is not a man.
But he does.
Our
listen to
dog
Bon
is his
Jovi.
best friend. What'd you say, George?
I said, but David does listen to Bon Jovi while eating dog food straight out of the can, though. So
Oh, yeah, he does that, of course. I mean, that's why I married him.
Oh, jeez. George, what on earth is our next title up for bids on Indie Comics? Because quite frankly, Crayle has taken us off the rails.
well, good.
David started it.
That's all right. We dig that. All right. Well, I got a couple of current series. These are still running right now, so
Oh, okay.
you can pick up the first trade. If you like it, you can go to your local comic book store and get the rest of the series here. But this is a cool anthology series, The Silver Coin. And this is a shared sort of universe in one series here. But basically, the main guy behind this is Michael Walsh, who always does the art behind each issue. But each issue is written by a different person. So we've had, Chip Zdarsky, we've had Jeff Lemire, we've had Ed Brisson, all sorts of other people. In the first volume alone was just great stuff. But if you can see the dead crow there is holding this coin with the eyeball in it there. So that is the coin in question here. It is a cursed coin, and it kind of acts as like a monkey's paw sort of device. People in low points of their lives get it, and good fortune happens to them for about 5 minutes. And then basically chaos and bloodshed and death and despair seem to follow very shortly thereafter. The fun device about this series is that each issue kind of takes place in different decades. So like the very first issue is about a band in the 1970s that's a rock band, and they are struggling because of the now popularity of disco. So, but the lead guy gets the coin, and suddenly they get some newfound popularity. And then things take a tragic turn very shortly thereafter. So, but anyway, that's just the first issue. And like, there's another issue. It's like during an 80s, like a summer camp sort of thing. And, there's some that takes place during the future. So they're all in different time periods. But the cool thing is that every now and then you'll get a storyline where something will harken back to a previous issue. But for the most part, this is all kind of separate. You can read each issue independently and kind of get the concept and be fine. But every now and then it'll make a reference back to a previous issue or something like that. So but it's a really cool like anthology kind of horror, very Twilight Zone-y. Sometimes the issues can get bloody, sometimes they're not. It just all depends on really who's writing it. So,
Speaking of indie comics, independent writers and publishers, Jody McPhee's in the building from the desk of a small press publisher. What an awesome tacular! That, by the way, that's a long name for a YouTube channel, dude. That's really long, but it doesn't matter. You know why? Because Jody McPhee, you're so money, you just don't even know it. Like a big bear, man. So Jody McPhee, it is so good to see you, kind sir. Now, if you want more information on him, check out his YouTube channel, From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. This guy knows more than the average bear. He knows more than the average citizen. He knows more than the average politician. Like, this guy knows the ins and outs of the comic book business. He tells you, like, what things are worth investing in, what things you may want to pick up, things you may want to read that you may not have otherwise heard of before. Kind of the stuff that we're doing to a similar extent. So, Jody McPhee, we respect you. We honor you. Well, I don't know if we can honor you. That's a pretty high bar. But what we can do is plug your stuff, Joe, because we respect you. And as a wise person once said, a rising tide lifts all ships. So check out his show on Saturday nights. I believe it's 9 p.m. CST, 9 p.m. Central Time. So that's 10 p.m. Eastern, if I'm not mistaken, Joe. And if I'm saying this wrong, if I'm giving people the wrong time frame, correct me in the chat. Correct me in the comments, because your show is cool. Your show's got a lot of good stuff going for it. You answer people's questions openly and honestly, and that's a bit of a hard thing to find these days, So Jody McPhee, check him out, and support one another. Isn't that right, George? Lift each other up, not tear each other down. Yeah,
absolutely.
Sorry, Crayle, I couldn't help but notice that Jody McPhee is here, and he's one of the professors of Comicsology 101. So if you want to learn something, check out Jody McPhee. You might want to write that one down, Crayle.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to apologize to me. I'm the one who's always like, hold on, let me write it down. Let me write it down. If it weren't for Ryan, I would have no memory. He has to hold my memory for me and then pass it back to me in pieces.
Yeah, I really do. But it's great to see you, Joe. Thanks for being here. If you have any thoughts about any of these titles we have mentioned in this episode, or maybe some things that we may not have heard of before that you think our viewers, as well as the three of us here sitting at this panel desk, should check out, let us know in the chat. Let us know in the comments, Joe. We always enjoy hearing from you, brother.
Nice. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's with comics, like I love getting different aspects of history.
I'm sorry, George. I'm not laughing at you. He says,
if you're only listening to the audio, Ryan's gonna.
I'm sorry, George. I'm so sorry. But Jody McPhee chimes in. He says, and I quote, that's the name of my show, but I'm actually quoting him. Joe says, "You're correct. George and Crayle, tell Ryan what he's won." Thank you, Joe.
Ryan, you won the ability to stay on this podcast for a couple more minutes.
Yeah, I have, apparently.
Well, you won yourself a lifetime supply of rice-a-roni, the San Francisco treat, and a lifetime supply of turtle wax. Thank you, Bob.
Who waxes a turtle?
It was very popular back in the day.
I was gonna say, if you've seen the scene in the original Ninja Turtles movie, if you've seen the scene in the original Ninja Turtles movie where April and what's his name, Casey Jones, are kind of getting it on a little bit in the kitchen, Mikey walks in and he says, "Hey guys." Dude, and then April looks at him and says, "Ointment?" And then he takes out a bottle of turtle wax and he points to the bottle. And then Casey Jones is like, "Get him out of here." Morning, Mikey.
So what you're telling me is that actually turtles wax themselves.
Yeah, because Michelangelo did that in the first movie. Why don't you look up the movie? It's on HBO Max. By the way, HBO Max is hashtag not a sponsor.
Hashtag not a sponsor.
No, of course
you know
not,
who is
George.
A sponsor? The radbear.com. We're going to talk about that more at the end of the episode.
Sure, why not?
Red Bear.
All right.
Charlie says, "Hey, you quoted 'I Lost' on Jeopardy" by Weird Al. Okay.
Thank you. All right, yeah. Charlie and I are best friends now. He got that I quoted a Weird Al song. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I just got to see the man in concert not too terribly long ago. I took my nephew for his very first concert ever, and was Weird Al, and yeah, it was choice.
So you're the one who gave his crewmate COVID so that mine got canceled and postponed.
Oh, they
thanks, George. Yeah.
John was already sick. He was sick for our show too.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
then I won't blame
Yeah.
George. We're gonna let George get back to talking about comics now. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
George,
George, we're
what's the
talking about
next
something known as
topic?
indie comics here on this show that's gone off the rails. How many times? Let me look at my watch. 4
think
times.
maybe
All
we
right,
should-
George, bring us
now
home. What is the next title up for discussion on indie comics?
I will, but now I make note that the Crayle and I are now best friends because she went to Weird Al as well. So there you go.
That's right. That's
Well,
right.
I haven't been
All right.
yet. He postponed. So
Okay, it's an awesome show, and if you've been to his other shows, it's different than their typical show. So give you a little teaser. All right. Last but not least, here, this is another current book here, and frankly, this is kind of one of those ones that it's still kind of early on. It's only 20. Actually, the 26th issue has not come out just yet. So it's a couple of volumes in right now, but this is a hot one currently, and I think Netflix did pick it up for a series. This is Something is Killing the Children, written by superstar artist James Tynion IV, who's currently writing every comic right now. This guy is prolific. He's writing for DC. He's writing for indies. I think the only people he hasn't done anything for is Marvel currently, but yeah, still fantastic. Very cool, kind of gothic sort of, spooky art here. But this basically series follows the main character of Erica, who is part of the House of Slaughter. And basically they are derived from the Order of St. George, as in like St. George and the Dragon. So essentially they are all monster hunters. Monsters do actually exist in our world. The unfortunate thing is that only children can see them. And it's quite possible that children are the reason they exist anyway, because when they tell spooky tales to each other, try to, their slumber parties, and they try to scare each other to death, something like that. Sometimes these tales, if they keep getting told, actually become real. And then, now then parents are watching their children getting slaughtered in front of them by something they can't even see, and then they get killed too. So it is a bit bloody. There's a lot of gore in it from time to time, but there's also a lot of monster hunting, and all the hunters tend to like to use traditional weaponry. There's no guns or anything in this. It's all swords and blades and blunt objects and whatever else. But very cool, very interesting kind of hierarchy between the monster hunters themselves. There's different classes, different ones do different things. They have different jobs or whatever else. They all wear these like face bandanas and some of them are different colors and different classifications on them. So that's kind of how they all rank each other. But trying to get the first couple issues of this series will set you back a pretty penny. So it's a lot cheaper to get at the trades. But once you get past the first 10 issues, you can start finding the individual issues at affordable prices. If you're kind of, you want to get, start getting the individuals. But of course, the trades, they're, I think like $15 a piece. And Boom is the studio that's putting it out currently. And Boom is, no pun intended, kind of on a boom right now. I mean, they've got, Something Is Killing the Children's doing really well. Their spin-off House of Slaughter is doing well. There's the Berserker comic, which is basically Keanu Reeves as an immortal warrior. Then, of course, they've got all the Power Rangers franchises, which there's I think there's like 4 books of the Power Rangers franchise right now.
Yeah, they're killing it with that, man. Seriously, as someone who grew up on that property, no offense, George, I'm a bit younger than most of you people, so Power Rangers was a huge thing in the 90s, and the fact that Boom Comics is making a killing off of that right now with all their adaptations and taking the series in a more mature, adult direction that we as fans grew up in the 90s want to see. We want to see darker stuff. We want to see grittier storylines featuring these classic characters because we're grown up, people. We can handle it, all right? I've seen violence. I've seen power swords. I've seen Zords. I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff. And also, I believe Boom is doing something where they're teaming up with they got the Power Rangers crossing over with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So clearly, Boom, what is it? Boom Comics, I think it is. Yeah, Boom Comics and whoever else is doing their thing over there is killing it. So no puns intended, because something is actually killing the children, but it has nothing to do with that title. So yeah, George, Boom Comics, anything Power Rangers. I mean, granted, I'm gonna eventually one of these days I want to get the omnibus because that's a lot of trades, dude. That's a lot of trades. I am not buying 30 trades. When I can get it as an omnibus, which is a big giant sandwich, I'm going to get the sandwich. I'm not going to get an appetizer. I want the main course, George. So if they put those things in an omnibus, which Boom Comics, you better be listening to this, because if you put it in an omnibus, I'm going to buy it from my LCS, which stands for local comic shop, just for those of you who are keeping up with the acronyms at home. So, yeah, something is killing the children. I've been hearing a lot about that lately, George. A lot.
I want to read it. I want to read it. Yeah.
You want to read it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Good
mean,
on you.
honestly, though, if children telling stories about monsters is what makes the monsters appear, no monsters appeared in my childhood, I think that's proof that I was never a real kid. My parents swear I was born like a serious adult and that I'm just aging in reverse. They're like, oh, you know how to have fun and have a sense of humor now. And I'm like,
oh my God.
Well, that's just a little creepy for me, but I will say this. My other commitments have come up, so I'm going to head out of here, but I wanted to say this. This just for Ryan's sake. This was fun. Thanks for having me. As always, Crayle, it's always good to see you. George, you broke the internet. You crossed the streams, even though I specifically told you not to do it. But it was great to have you. I know Crayle and George are going to keep this show in good hands for the next few minutes here as I exit the studio and move on to another commitment that I do have, unfortunately. It's a prior commitment. No offense. But I got to head on over to that. But I want to say thank you for having me. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. Check out the show I do every Saturday. And I quote 12 p.m. EST. George is going to be on there soon. He's going to be on there. He's excited. And Crayle's been on in the past. You who may be watching or listening to this may be trying to figure that out. So follow me on social media. Find the stuff there. And you're going to like the way you look if you're watching or listening to And I Quote, as well as Comic Books The New Class, as well as Fanatic Forum on Friday nights at 7 p.m. EST. We guarantee it. Crayle, George, have fun. I'm going to exit stage left and have a good time. Take care, will you?
Yeah, we will. Bye, Ryan. We'll miss you.
TTFN. Yeah. Actually, I've got to bring up. I do want to bring up one of Jody McPhee's comments here.
Oh, yeah, I was going to do that next.
Yeah, I agree with him. 8 Billion Genies is a fantastic book. It was picked up for a series by Amazon. I reviewed that myself on pretty much every issue that's come out. The whole concept of that is basically everybody in the world gets their own personal genie and everybody gets one wish. And then everything goes pear-shaped in about 8 seconds.
So in a perfect bull ride.
Yeah.
8 seconds. That's.
Yeah. Yeah. The first 4 issues of the 8-issue series have been released. Each issue is already in its 3rd printing, and that tells you how popular the series is.
Nice.
And his other one, Do a Powerbomb, is amazing. It's a wrestling book, but it's basically made for and by people who don't really know anything about wrestling. Daniel Warren Johnson's the main creative head on this one. He basically got into watching Japanese wrestling during COVID and fell in love with it, and then wrote a series kind of based around a little bit of kind of, taking from Japanese wrestling, but basically a kind of the world's most famous wrestler. She dies in the ring, and her daughter sees this. It's kind of very traumatic, but she still grows up to be a wrestler herself and gets involved in kind of this, I guess, interdimensional tournament where there's people from all over the place, and it's a big wrestling tournament, and the prize is you can bring someone back to life. The only caveat is that the dude running this promotion doesn't realize that in our Earth, wrestling is not a real combat sport. He doesn't realize that it's a performance. So he thinks these people are fighting to the death, and that's what he expects.
That sounds like something I could really get into. So I don't know very much about wrestling at all, which makes me feel kind of like the weird one at the Cereal Box Network. There are so many wrestling fans at the Cereal Box Network. I love it that people are passionate about it, but I don't have the context to understand it. So this sounds like something to get me. I'm that way with a lot of different sports and hobbies. Like The Replacements is a great movie. I love it. I don't understand football. I know what a touchdown is. I think I know what a field goal is. That's when they kick it, right? I don't know anything about football, but I feel like The Replacements was kind of a football movie for people who don't actually care about the technical parts of football. So I feel like if I could get into The Replacements, I could really get into something more comic book format, like different world type of wrestling, Yeah.
It's very much, because the Japanese style of wrestling anyway is both extremely serious competitive and also cartoon explosion. It's really weird how the two worlds have come together more so than even in the States. In the States, Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold Steve Austin and John Cena and stuff like that, where it is competitive sport and there's the elements of kind of the cartoon and the showmanship and stuff like that. But Japan takes it even further.
Mhm.
So yeah. So
All right, Charlie says, "Oh, sorry, George."
Oh yeah, but yeah, so yeah, definitely. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, do a definitely worth checking out.
Yep. Charlie says Weird Al was in Grand Rapids, Michigan at the end of the last month, and his wife and he went, and it was epic. Everybody's gone but me. Like, what was somebody specifically like, Crayle, I'm mad at you. No Weird Al for you. You have to wait till May of next year. Apparently, Jody McPhee has. Yeah, May of next year.
That's
Jody McPhee says GILT is good. Do you know what this is, George? Of course you do. You're an expert.
It's currently a series going on right now. I think AWA Studios is putting it out. So, and AWA has put out some really good books. So, I have personally not read Guilt, but I will have to check this out. Thanks, Jody.
And Jody is about to read a Kickstarter series called Sacrimony. There are so many Kickstarters that I want to get in on that I would go broke if I like everything that I want to read and make sure that it gets published. But I might check it out. I might check it out. If you're looking for something, maybe you should check it out if you're watching or listening. Charlie says, so you're a total Benjamin Button, Crayle. I am. I do all kinds of things in reverse. So like 3 years ago, I started my first ever D&D campaign, and I'm not a very great like actress per se. So what I ended up doing for myself, since like off air, especially, like I tend to be a little bit more of like a serious, like dark humored like person, is I made a character who starts out really immature and is growing up, right? Which is a pretty normal progression. But for me, that's backwards, is I'm having to act less and less like my character as time goes on and just follow my natural instinct. Because like, I'm like, okay, I finally got the role play part down. I really need to learn how to do the mechanics, because I've been playing for 2 years now, and it's not cute to not know how to use my sheet. I'm just like, sorcery points, what are those? So yeah, totally did that in reverse too. But
nice. Anytime, I haven't played D&D in a while, but anytime I would play at a couple groups I ran with for a little bit, and I always end up like trying to do a serious character, but they end up going comedic. And my favorite one was a barbarian I had named Garl, like Carl with a G.
Garl.
But yeah, Garl. And Garl seemed to be a fairly normal barbarian, but he like would rage out weird things. And one of those things would be good berries. Like he loved good berries. So like if he would go into a tavern and somebody would have made the misfortune of making a fresh batch of good berry muffins, he'd just go apey, trash the whole place, and eat all the muffins.
Yeah, my favorite quirk for my character right now is that, I think we're level 15 as a group now, and I still have an AC of my AC with a special ring that gives me an extra health point and a couple of other like buff type things, can get as high as 13. And it stresses. I don't know a single healing spell. That's the part that really stresses out some of my friends who aren't part of the campaign. But the way we've built it in with the role play is I'm a princess. It's other people's job to make sure I don't get hurt. What are you talking about? And I have stayed committed to that. I still have not learned a single healing spell. I don't carry potions. I don't do any of that. So somebody hits the princess and suddenly the whole crew is just like, no.
Yeah, I feel you with the AC lack thereof, because the unfortunate thing with Garl and part of his tribe is that when they would go into their berserker rage, they somehow, like, no matter if they were dressed in full plate mail, they would very quickly go nude. And so I would basically literally strip away all my armor and extra weaponry, would be only holding the weapon I had in my dominant hand, and berserker rage muffins. Naked
Berserker
guy.
Rage Muffins, Naked Guy.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great metal album. Berserker Rage Muffins, Naked Guy.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it worked. It was fine with normal fights, but then after I'd go into a rage, then basically suddenly my AC was like 0.
For non-D&D people, your AC is your armor class. It's like your amount of like defense that you get against stuff that hurts you.
Yeah.
And 13 for a level 15 character is very low. Like, just for context, it's really low. Sorcerers are already kind of squishy, and my character is just, she is a tiny little ball of squish who throws fireballs.
Oh, see, I love short, characters in D&D. One of our buddies had a dwarf named Crash, and he was an explosives expert. So yeah,
That tracks.
Yeah, the thing is, he didn't care much for like using axes and swords. So, like, he would much rather like throw like bundles of dynamite or make bombs and grenades and stuff like that. So he was a little ahead of his time, but man, he was fun.
Mm-hmm. Jody McPhee, your name is so fun to say, by the way. That's why I'm saying the whole name every time. Jody McPhee says that Crayle needs to see a true Japanese electrified barbed wire death match to understand how cartoony but serious a bout can get. That sounds hardcore, okay? I don't know why anybody would volunteer for that. My grandpa has like a small, like, independent farm with, chickens, rabbits, cows, corn, grapes, like just enough to support like a family. And I touched barbed wire accidentally one time. Never done it again. Like, or not barbed wire, electrified fence in the section that's not barbed wire. So mixing together the electrified and the barbed wire, like, why would you volunteer for that?
Yeah. Well, not only would they volunteer for it, there was actually some wrestlers who created this match, and others have since done it. But yeah, it's a thing. Look it up, folks. Probably the most famous of these matches was actually performed by 2 American wrestlers in Japan, Mick Foley and Terry Funk. But yeah, basically the whole ring, instead of the traditional ring ropes, which traditionally are made of elevator cable, so they're not messing around with those. But yeah. But those ropes are replaced with barbed wire, and then there's certain points of the ring where basically it's it's electrified. So, well,
it's electric. All right. Well, George, I think we covered it for each one, but are there any of the books that you suggested that cannot be found very easily in stores? Are there any that I need to put a website in the comments for?
No, I mean, like I say, you can find basically all these trades, as far as I know, are still in print. Five Ghosts, Velvet, Nemesis, and Starlight have already ended. They're either miniseries or series that were canceled in the case of Five Ghosts. Silver Coin is still running right now. I think there's like 3 trades available for it. Something is Killing the Children is about to release its 4th trade. Of course, it's about ready to go into its 26th issue on that one. But so, no, these are all very easy to find. Go to your local comic shop and see what kind of back issues they can pull up for you and all that kind of thing there.
All right. Well, while you were updating us on that, I'm typing my 2 suggestions in here, making sure everybody knows where to find them, because there's really not much point really hyping up an indie comic and then not knowing where to get it. I want to make sure we're actually doing independent authors, creators, and makers a favor when we make a show all about them. And the creators and the makers, like podcasts and hobby/jobs like mine, wouldn't exist here. So, I'm just making sure that all that information is there. George, we've mentioned it a few times, but where else can we find you on the internet? Tell us how to stalk you via the cyber web.
All right. The Fanatic Forum is my local live podcast I do every Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Of course, that's on Facebook at George the Fanatic or YouTube under Fanatic Forum. I really welcome everybody to the table here. I'm talking about new comics each week, movies, TV shows, wrestling, video games, whatever, just anything geek that just happens to pop up. We're going to do that. And this week, there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about. I got some updated things for some upcoming Marvel projects later, this year and some down the road. Of course, we're on the cusp of a brand new Star Wars series starting literally tomorrow. So got that to talk about. And then our old friend John Constantine might be making a return to the silver screen. So, yeah, that was a big surprise there. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that too. So there you go.
I heard some people are very happy and some people are very unhappy about which on-screen version of Constantine we're getting back. So tune into George's show to hear more about that.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he's going to talk about it. Well, as for where you can find me, if you go to linktree.com/Phoenix Sis Cosplay, it's Phoenix SIS Cosplay, short for sisters. My Pokeballs are there. Kelly's books are there. All of our cosplay stuff is there. All of our joint podcast efforts, because we are all over the geeky podcast sphere. It's just all there. Every social media, every website, linktree.com/Phoenix, PHOENIX, Sis, SIS, Cosplay, COSPLAY. You heard it here on Comic Books The New Class. Go ahead, George.
Sorry to cut you off. If I may, about your Pokeballs, folks, if you guys are Pokemon fans in any degree, these are really cool. I'm not a Pokemon fan. I've seen these in the flesh, and it's just these wonderful little dioramas of your favorite character, and it's actually done in a Pokeball. So it's like everything's nice and compact. It's a wonderful curated little diorama of fuzzy little trees and grass and flowers and such, and then your favorite character in there. So of course you can have whoever you want in there, your Charizard, your Squirtle, your Pikachu, or I don't know. I mean, that's all I know. But yeah, but those are, like I said, I'm not a fan, and those are really cool.
That is like the most flattering compliment I get. Sometimes non-Pokemon fans to see my work, and they're like, "I don't even like Pokemon, and I want to take this home." And I'm just like, "I'm gonna melt now. Oh, I worked so hard. I'm so glad." But yeah, so if you're catching the replay, make sure you still go ahead and comment what your favorite indie comics are. Ryan and I read every single comment, y'all, even if we don't have time to put it up on the screen during the show or we don't reply to it later. We read every single comment. We appreciate your feedback. We listen after show. Sometimes, I'm serious, we'll sit in the green room and we'll pull up and talk between the two of us if there are comments we missed putting on the screen, and make sure we don't need to continue that conversation with somebody on social media or something. We appreciate you, the viewer, so much. You're the real stars of the show here. Yeah, this is a Cereal Box Network production. Our flagship show is called Back of the Cereal Box. If you Google Back of the Cereal Box, all kinds of websites and related podcasts come up. This is a real labor of love that our network executive, Johnny, has put together. So if you enjoy this show, check out the other shows. And then my very, very last, note for the night is our sponsor is theradbear.com, RADBEAR, a really cool sign, however the Latin term for bears. Theradbear.com. If you use code comics10, you get a discount on really geeky t-shirts, and we get a small kickback to, again, just improve the quality of our programming. So y'all have an excellent night. George, thank you so much for joining us. Bye.
Thank you very much for having me. Later.